Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Energize Your Online Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, guys. Today we are going to dip into a topic that, actually, I'm going to be honest, I'm starting to get a little sick of this topic. I feel like everybody is talking about it, especially in the business world, which is the world we are in. Your average person is just starting to hear about it, but we have been talking about it like crazy. However, we wanted to give you our take on it because we come from a slightly different perspective. And what we're talking about, of course, is AI. ChatGPT, especially things that are generating words for you. In full transparency, for those of you who don't know, I started my career as a copywriter. I've been a professional copywriter for more than 20 years now. I always say I've written for multi-billion-dollar companies down to solopreneurs and every size business in between. And Kate, you have also been a copywriter for, what is it now?
Not quite 12, somewhere between 10 and 15. Somewhere maybe right smack in the middle, to be honest. I'm not sure. But I feel like my bio is the same as yours, just less years. Slightly less years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. So I do want to establish that because I don't want you to listen and think, well, obviously you're going to say you should be hiring a copywriter because you guys are copywriters. And we want to make sure that you guys know this because first of all, because we have nothing to hide, I'm very proud of being a copywriter. But I'm sure that the initial thought is, well, of course, you're going to be like, well, yeah, hire a copywriter. Because also not only are we copywriters, but in one of our other brands, we train people to become professional copywriters. So I want to put that out there so that you're aware of that. But also because we have these copywriting backgrounds, we can give you a little bit more insight into what happens in that copywriting relationship, whether you have worked with copywriters before or whether you haven't. And quite frankly, there's also a real difference between working with a really good, super professional copywriter and someone who doesn't actually know how to do it, but tells you that they're a copywriter and tells you that they can do it. Okay, so let's dig in. And you may already be somewhat familiar with what everybody's saying about AI and all that kind of thing. But fundamentally, what AI does when it comes to writing and what ChatGPT does, what all of them, Bard, all of these, I'm sure there are going to be a billion that are released even between the time that we record this and the time that the podcast episode goes live. But conceptually, what AI does when it is I don't want to say writing because it's not writing.
When it's cobbling together,
when it's reassembling, because that's what it's doing. It's reassembling. It's taking a prompt. It's going out into all of the information on the interwebs. I won't even pretend that I understand how it works. But what it does is it goes out there, it culls the information that is out there, and it brings it together and it reassembles it, which is amazing, fascinating. Like you could, the concept that that's even possible is amazing. What a world. But again, it's only able to look at what's already out there and then reassemble it. So first of all, AI cannot be creative. It can reassemble things, but it cannot come up with something completely new. It also can't come up with something outside of the prompt that you've given it. If you've given it a prompt to get me messaging about or create messaging about XYZ, it's not going to be able to come back and say, actually, I know you wanted this, but I thought if we approached it from this other angle, that would be so much better. It can't, it can only it like takes building blocks and it builds, but it can't create new blocks, and it can't create something other than if you go, okay, go take these, find Legos and build me a Lego castle. It's going to go out, it's going to find Legos from all over the internet and come back and build you a Lego castle. But if what would really have been better is a colonial or a friend of ours is looking for real estate. Can you tell it's in my head? Or a bungalow or something like that. If that would have been better, it's not going to be able to do that. It's also not going to be able to come back and create a whole different kind of element to that castle that's never existed before, because AI cannot create. It can reassemble, but it cannot create. And I was just thinking back, I feel like there was a spate of movies in, maybe it was the 90s or the early 2000s, that was like concept of robots learning emotions, right? They were becoming human. They were learning emotions. And it was always fascinating to watch those movies, but they can't. They cannot feel emotions. And it's the same thing with AI. Just fundamentally, they cannot be fully creative. They can reassemble things, certainly, but again, only based on the prompts that you give them, but they cannot create. And that's a fundamental limitation, especially when it comes to your messaging.
Yeah, so compare this to an actual copywriter. Obviously, it's the opposite. Surprise! But it changes the whole process of writing and content creation of any kind, because a copywriter who has training, who knows what they're doing, it's not just writing. They're not just a writer. They're not just executing. Because at that point, yes, if you're just feeding them something and the writer spits it back out at you, sure, fundamentally, then they're kind of like a better ChatGPT. But what a copywriter is going to do is come in, or should do with you, is sit down and kick off a project with you to say, okay, you wanted to do this. You wanted to write this email to achieve this goal and have this call to action. They should be able to ask you questions then about all of this so that they have the information they need to write it. But also, as they're asking these questions, to Nicki's point, ChatGPT can't do anything beyond what it's given. And so what a copywriter can do is take what it's given, but have a conversation back with you to say, okay, you've told me this. What about this, though? Is this email the most effective way to achieve this goal that you have? What if it's an ad that is actually the most effective way to achieve this goal, or an ad and the email, or whatever combination of actual deliverables is needed? The deliverable is just the final end thing. And I don't want to discount what a copywriter is actually ultimately producing for you, but the work leading up to that is so much more important and crucial to making sure whatever that ultimate piece and deliverable is going to do its job and be effective. So, a copywriter should be able to come in. And if you say, my audience is everyone, a copywriter can say, well, okay, I understand it's probably your audience is very wide and you could reach different people. What about this product? And dig into actually who your product or service serves. Is it men and women? Is it a certain age range? Is it a certain, are kids and adults? That okay. And be able to say, okay, I think it's actually, here's around your age range. Here's maybe to their income bracket and demographics, and to really help you hone that problem. Or if you're thinking that you want to drive cold traffic straight to a sales page for a $5,000 product, a copywriter should also be able to come in and say, okay, hey, I think, I'd love to help you write your sales page, but what I think we need to do first is create something, opt people in first, get them on your email list, and, have a way to get them to be ready to buy a $5,000 product in a way that, sending cold traffic straight to the sales page isn't. So they're a partner. They are a human, living, breathing partner. And I think what we can't overlook with humans is that we do have emotions. And so the copywriter should be able to connect with you about your business and what your business, your goals, how you're serving your audience, and to be able to understand those pain points, to be able to understand your challenges, your audience's challenges, and get to the emotion and root of why what you have to offer is so powerful and going to be so helpful and impact your audience's lives. And then be able to translate that into messaging that connects at a deep, deep level with that emotion to get them to understand the value that you bring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. a copywriter is so much more than just someone who writes copy. They are a strategist. They are a marketer, as Kate was saying. They're a partner. It's when your copywriter asks you questions about your company, about your brand, about your audience, they should make you think about these things in a way that you've never done before. It will sometimes even be like, oh, wow, okay. They will be the ones who help you figure out if the way that you're messaging things or the way you intended to message things or even what you should be saying to begin with, what you're focusing on, whatever messaging you were going to lead with or the order of the messaging or all that kind of thing. That is a good copywriters expertise. And I'm sure there are probably some people listening who are like, I worked with a copywriter and they've never done that. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, sure, there are people who are not good at many different industries, right? That's why you need to make sure, and we'll talk about that just a little bit about how to hire a good copywriter, but you need to make sure you're hiring a good copywriter. There's that old joke about what do you call the guy who graduates at the bottom of his medical school class?
A doctor.
A doctor, exactly. And they graduate from medical school. It is perfectly possible, and we see this people out there just saying, I like writing. I'm good with words. I'm going to tell people I'm a copywriter when they have no understanding, because it's actually a very in-depth training that requires a lot of practice and a lot of specialization. Because don't forget that your messaging is the most important part of your business, even, I would say, beyond whatever you're selling. Because if you have fantastic messaging that really connects to your target audience in exactly the right way and tells them what they need and want to hear, people will buy. And I wouldn't recommend this, even if you have a cruddy product or service, well, people will buy if your messaging is good. Please have a good product or service. But at the same time, you could have the best product or service in the world, but if you can't effectively explain to your audience why it's so good, why they need it, nobody's going to buy. We see that with our circuit sales system students a lot. They have amazing products, but they've never or have not yet learned how to connect their target audience to their offer in a way that's effective, which of course is part of what we teach them in the program. Part of it. But a copywriter is going to be that partner for you. And ChatGPT or whatever AI or it can't do it. Now, look, is ChatGPT good for generating some ideas? Yeah, absolutely. If you can't get out of your head and you're like, I need to write a blog post about XYZ, ChatGPT, what are some, as if you would have to say its name, like Kate. But what are some topics that I could write about? Blah, 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 blah. Sure, use it to generate ideas, but don't rely on it. And also, by the way, don't use it verbatim, because we know now that if you use it to write your blog post or if you use it to write any of your copy or content, Google knows, and Google will ding you for it. If you use ChatGPT to create all your stuff, Google will not be happy with you. And let's be honest, we all want to stay on Google's good side.
And yet, to that point of Google penalizing people for AI generated content, there's a site, and we'll link to this article in the show notes, called SiteCare. And they did a 5-week experiment. They created one piece of content, human did it, and one piece of content that AI generated on the same topic. And of course, 5 weeks, they recognized that even longer, the data might have proven even more distinct. But on Google, the human created piece ranked 15.5% higher than the AI article. And the human created piece had a click-through rate that was 20% higher than its AI counterpart. So those are huge percentages when it comes to people clicking on Google and Google, how they're ranking it. So
yeah, Google does not want to reward AI created content and copy. Mm-hmm. And Google is only going to get better at recognizing what is content and AI generated content and copy. we were just talking, our operations manager was saying she went to an event where they were using AI to create some of their copy, but in order to, or content or listing for something, it wasn't actually, but in order to make it so that Google would not penalize them, they created it with AI, and then they ran through 4 different types of softwares to change the copy enough that Google wouldn't recognize that it was AI generated, which is just, I mean, just hire a professional. Just hire a copywriter. It'll be faster. And at that point, the time wasted and all of these elements, like, it'll be cheaper and you'll get a better product.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not some Frankenstein.
Because that's the thing too, is if you use AI, you use ChatGPT, you still need someone to go in, look it through, and make sure it's usable. It's not like you could just put it into the machine and get it and go, okay, now it goes up on my site. No.
Well, and facts-wise too, they've found that it's giving bad information that's not even accurate, that's not even factually true. So
yes. Yeah. So you still need someone to go over it. And whether it's you or whether you're like, oh, actually, this isn't written very well, I need a writer to come in and fix it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Especially because crummy, factually incorrect writing is going to hurt your business way more than just not doing anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the other thing is too, ChatGPT is going to come up with something that's already been done before. What we're doing and what we want to do isn't necessarily what someone's already been doing and done before. And this is, where messaging becomes so important to differentiate yourself from all of the like businesses in your space. You want to stand out from them. You created your business because there was a gap to fill, because there was a need, because you had an audience to serve that you saw wasn't being served in the right way. And so you need to communicate that of how you are different, how you are unique. And so if ChatGPT is just regurgitating what already exists, sure, that might be a starting point, but you need to layer on top of that, whatever ChatGPT came up with, your unique take. What is your spin on all of this? And really, if you think about it like that, anything ChatGPT comes up with isn't going to be useful to you because it's what's been done before. And you are doing something that is new and exciting and different. And you need to communicate that to people so they understand why they should go to you to solve their challenge versus anyone else. Why you have this unique take in the space that draws them in, that compels them to work with you.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I was just talking about this in a coaching note for the CSS students. If somebody else is already saying your marketing message, don't say it. There's no point in you saying what somebody else is already saying. Your marketing message and what you sell has to be distinctive. There's no point in saying the same thing. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to be a waste of time. You're going to end up spinning your wheels. It's not effective marketing to say the same thing. And I know that sometimes we fall back on this. Well, I have to send an email. I have to put up a blog post. I have to do something. Yeah, but if the difference is between not putting up a blog post and putting up a blog post that is, if these are truly your choices between not putting up a blog post and putting up a blog post that's just saying the same thing that everybody else is, skip the blog post.
Save your time.
Nobody cares. Exactly. Instead, take some time and create messaging that is unique, that says something different, that makes you distinctive, and that sets you apart. And again, it's going to be so hard to do, so hard to figure out. Do you know who could help you with that? A copywriter. And again, I know you guys, it's like, well, yeah, but you guys are there are copywriters out there, and you don't have to hire a copywriter for well, I have to hire them to do this big project. No, you could find a copywriter you like and book just an hour or two of their time. And just talk with them about your messaging and how then maybe that goes to something more, maybe it doesn't. But you don't have to commit to a $10,000 project with a copywriter. You could even just use a good copywriting resource to just talk through some ideas with you. Again, you want it to make sure it's a good copywriter. And we won't forget to talk about how to evaluate copywriters, but it's worth it. Your messaging is way too important to mess around with. And I know that there will be businesses who are like, well, but I'm just going to give it to ChatGPT because it'll be fine enough. First of all,
it'll be faster and easier, I think, is the other thing, which...
And you know what? Here's the thing. And I'm confident that I'm not talking to our audience when I say this, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Anybody who looks for the easy way out of doing important things in your business is not going to be in business for long anyway. So if you're like, well, I'm in another Facebook group and so is using ChatGPT for everything and they're moving so much faster, you know what? They've outsourced the most important thing in their business. They've chosen the fast and easy option that doesn't even actually work effectively. They're not going to be in business for long. And I know that there is this element of, when it comes to your messaging, because it's so important, there's an element of fear of like, oh, I'm scared what if I don't get this right? Maybe I'm just going to give it to ChatGPT. We all have to do scary things in our business, and mastering your message can be a little, yes, absolutely. Kate and I were just talking about some messaging we're going to be changing. And I realized I went down a slightly not wrong road, but went too far down off the path. It requires some thinking and it requires some strategizing. But if you're not willing, I shouldn't say because I know this is not this audience, if a business owner is not willing to do that, not willing to do the hard stuff, not willing to do the scary stuff, not willing to figure out why people actually want to buy from them and should buy from them, they have no business being in business anyway. And they won't be in business for very long. And I know that probably comes across as mean or unsupportive, but there are some hard truths in business. And if people want to get lazy about their messaging, then best of luck to you, kid. Best of luck.
Well, and it can feel, I think, to your point about it being uncomfortable, I think, because I know we're using the word scary, and I don't think it's necessarily scary. It's uncomfortable, because if you are truly doing something new in your space, you don't want to sound like everyone else. And it is uncomfortable to have messaging that is different from what everyone else is doing. But that difference is what's going to set you apart. And that difference is good. It just feels very uncomfortable because you're the first one in the space to maybe say this and maybe tell your audience this, but you're telling them what they need to hear and what you know they need to hear. And so it can be, you're on new ground. You're blazing a new path in some ways to say, nope, this is how everyone else has been doing it in this line of work, but I'm going this direction and I want you all to come with me, and here's why. And it's a better path. That can be intimidating to be a leader in your space, but that if that's what you want to be, then it requires that little bit of discomfort to be unique in your messaging and to not say what everyone else is saying. And it's that feeling though too of, well, everyone else is saying this, so I need a blog that says this exact same thing. Well, maybe you take that topic and here's what everyone else is saying, and you again layer on your unique take on it. And so you fill that space that you feel like you need to talk about whatever this specific topic is, but you do it in your way that is new and refreshing and not stale and not the same old thing. And yes, that's going to continue to feel disconcerting probably. And you're going to continue to have to do it, because then once you do it, potentially other people see that and they, oh, I like that. That's good. You might find people copying you at that point. And so you're always going to have to kind of be refreshing how you're talking and what you're talking about, and the different, as the world turns and different things happen and different things that you need to address, there's always going to be something new that you have to get a little bit uncomfortable with and really nail your message that no one else is saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes we have to do the hard, scary things. That's part of being a business. That's part of growing as a human. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I get it. I get it. I need to bring in a copywriter to at least help me in some way, shape, or form with my messaging, or at least instead of dealing with ChatGPT or AI. How do you find a good copywriter? I will say, number one, we're going to put a link in the show notes. We do have a site where we have students in our, we have our copywriting training course, the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy. Lots of fantastic students in there. We have a listing where our students who have ascended to our CCA Next Level program, we have a listing where you can find some of their bios, so you can take a look there. But what are you looking for when you're looking for a copywriter? Number one, first of all, they have to have a website. They just have to be a professional in anything these days. You have to have a website. And they have to, as in must, have a portfolio section on their website. Because otherwise, how are you going to know if they can actually do what they say that they can do? I see a lot, not from our programs, but I see a lot of people saying that they're copywriters. So you go take a look at their website and there's nothing. There are no samples. There's nothing. And you can tell me that you did amazing work for all of these clients, but if I can't see what work you did, I have no reason to be interested in hiring you. Because I want to see the work that you've done. And there are a couple of reasons that you want to see the work that they've done.
Yeah, you want to see not just the samples, but also a breakdown of what the problem was, how they solved it. You want to get a look into their thought process, because if they're not explaining a little bit about how they achieved this, then you don't get a sense of, okay, they wrote this, but what were the questions they asked? What were they thinking about when they wrote it? Do they take a strategic approach, or are they just an executor who gets handed a project and spits out copy? You kind of want to see that they know how to partner with you. So you want to look for a write-up along with each of the pieces that they include in their portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And look for some depth and breadth of experience. Look for them being able to write in different kinds of brand voices, because you want someone who can step into your brand and write as if it sounds like you had written it. You want them to be able to do that, if not immediately hitting the ground running, with just a little bit of revision. So look for someone who's written for a bunch of different kinds of brands and a bunch of different kinds of voices, because if they can meld their voice to those brands, then it's very likely that they can meld their voice to your brand as well.
Or even help you create your brand voice and what that is, so that you don't sound like every other brand in your space. Because it's very tempting, I know, to see and look for copywriters that say, oh, they sound just like me, that's who I want to hire. But everything they've written sounds just like that. And you don't actually see that they're able to write in any other way besides one type of way. And so you don't necessarily need a copywriter that has samples that sound and look and are in your industry and are in your tone of voice. You want to see someone who, again, like Nicki said, can fit into many different paths, because then you know that person understands copywriting. They understand a brand voice and how to step into a brand voice versus just kind of having one way of knowing how to write.
Make sure too that when you're looking at these portfolios, that what you're actually seeing is copywriting and not content writing. And there's a difference. Content writing is your blog posts. That's writing that's designed to educate, to entertain, or to inspire, right? That's your blog post. That's great, but it has a very different purpose than copywriting. Copywriting is designed to get people to take an action, to persuade them, to maybe literally sell them on doing something, or just to get them to do something. And that's what you're looking for. So if you go to someone's website and they say, I'm a copywriter, great, and their entire portfolio is full of blog pieces, run the other way, because they don't know the difference between the two, and the strategy required for those two different types of writing is very, very different. Now, if you get to a website and they have, here's my copy section of my portfolio, here's my content section of my portfolio, awesome. They understand. But if you are looking for a copywriter and all they have is content, this is not someone you want to work with. They don't get it. And then just one other quick little thing. I know that sometimes people are like, well, should I be looking for a copywriter with a certification? No, absolutely not. A certification proves Nothing. All it proves is that they paid for a course or a program that has a certification. They gave somebody a credit card. That's all that it proves. And even if that certification is some kind of test or something like that, all it proves is that they paid for this. What you are looking for as someone who's interested in hiring a copywriter, look in their portfolio. The proof is in the pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Look, and like Kate said, read through their descriptions when they talk about what they were trying to do, who the target audience is. Look at their copy and see if that copy is really talking to that target audience, if it did what it intended to do. And if it did, then awesome. You have someone who could be a good option for you when it comes to a copywriter. And again, like we said, we'll put a link to some of some of our cream of the crop students, but these should go across the board no matter who you're talking to. There are a lot of excellent, and quite frankly, our program has produced a bunch of them, but there are a lot of excellent copywriters out there. However, like any other industry, there are also a lot of cruddy copywriters out there, and a lot of copywriters who have no business calling themselves copywriters because they don't actually know what it means to write copy, or they've kind of been guessing at it.
The portfolio at least can give you a good direction. Might you take one or two people to find the best fit? Potentially, but as with anything. But as long as you're doing this work and looking at their portfolio and looking for these things, you're going to be set yourself up to hopefully find the right match right out the gate, versus if you don't look at their portfolio or if they don't have one or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Your messaging is important, as we've been saying. So hold your standards high.
Yeah.
Make sure that you hire a copywriter who don't just go, well, I need someone to hire, and this person is really nice. Well, and my friend said this person is really good, and they don't have a portfolio, and they don't. Hold your standards high. You can't afford to mess around with your messaging, which I guess kind of brings us full circle to the whole ChatGPT question. Can it be great for generating ideas? Yeah. If you are just, you're staring at the screen, you go, I have got nothing. Sure. Play around with it a little bit, but by no means outsource your copy to it. Do not rely on AI for the most important thing in your business. Okay, so we talked about a lot today, and boy, I hope this is the last time we have to talk about ChatGPT.
It's not. You know it's not.
I know it isn't, and it is. It's truly fascinating, but I don't know about you guys. We hope that we gave you a different way of thinking about it, because boy, am I sick of hearing about it.
Humans are so much better than the robots. We're still so much better.
Still so much better than the robots in at least most things. Copywriting, 100%. Okay, so with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.